Minister, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Fran.
Stephen Smith, can you confirm the bodies of the 3 Australians killed in the Jakarta attacks are being repatriated today?
Well, they're being repatriated. I'm not proposing to go into the details. Really, that's a matter for the families. It's not the sort of thing that I would give publicity to. But yes, the repatriation has started. But frankly, I regard that as being a matter for the families. I met some family members when I was in Jakarta, and really your heart goes out to them. It breaks your heart when you sit down and have a conversation with them, so I'd prefer to leave that as a private matter for them.
Do you have any intelligence, did Australia have any intelligence that Australians were the target of the Jakarta bombings?
Well, firstly, I don't talk about intelligence, as you know, but whilst when you look at the modus operandi and some of the approaches, it may well have been the case that the particular businessman's meeting, which occurs on a regular basis once a month or so, whilst it looks as though that possibly or may well have been targeted, we don't know whether Australians themselves were targeted. What we do know is that at that regular meeting, Australians were invariably, if not always, in attendance, including some of our Austrade officers, and on this terrible occasion, Craig Sanger. But in all of these matters, I've always said we're best off waiting until we see the final and exhaustive analysis by the authorities, in this case by the Indonesian authorities, and we continue to work closely with them. What, of course, we do know is that Westerners or foreigners were clearly targeted, given the site of the hotel and the meeting that was on there.
Did we get any warning of Friday's attacks in Jakarta, even obliquely?
Well, when it first occurred, one of the things I asked officials was, did we have, and this is where I have in general terms spoken about intelligence, did we have anything to indicate that this particular attack or these particular attacks might occur? To which the answer was no. We then, as a result of our National Security Committee meetings, effected an exhaustive review of that, and we've come to the same conclusion, that there was nothing that we had or we saw which would cause us to contemplate attacks at these 2 hotels. Having said that, of course, for a half a dozen years, our travel advisory to Indonesia has been to consider or reconsider your need to travel, and that's been because of the risk of terrorist attack, and we've, in our travel advisory, specified a dozen or so locations where Westerners or foreigners might gather, including, of course, hotels.
And I note that the government has reissued those travel advisories for Jakarta and Bali, and as you say, the National Security Committee of Cabinet met several times over the weekend. Are there any warnings that more attacks are imminent? Well,
I'll just repeat what the travel advisory says, and it's been updated factually to draw attention to these tragic and terrible events. But it was also updated as I was leaving Jakarta on Sunday, coming back to Australia, to draw attention to the fact that there is a possibility that further terrorist attacks in Indonesia, including Jakarta, including Bali, may occur. Now, I'm not proposing to go any further than that. That's clearly in the travel advisory.
But that's not based on any particular new intelligence?
Well,
that's what I'm trying to get at.
It's based on all of our assessments. There's a range of sources or pieces of information that we rely upon when we do the travel advice. But we know that in Indonesia itself, we've seen 2 attacks in Bali. We've seen an attack upon our embassy in Jakarta. We've seen the 2003 Marriott hotel attack, and now we've seen these evil attacks with tragic consequences. So our advice continues to be the same, which is people should consider or reconsider their need to travel to Indonesia. And of course, if they go, they need to take special care, particularly at this time.
Minister, the Indonesian authorities seem pretty convinced that these bombings were planned by Nurdin Muhammad Top. Has Australia offered to assist with the pursuit of Nurdin Top?
Well, we have offered whatever assistance the Indonesian authorities need or require. That was one of the points of my visit over the weekend, not just to offer our condolences and show our sympathy and support to the victims and their families, and also our own officials who've had to deal with over the time in Indonesia with some terrible events, but also to say we were standing and show we were standing shoulder to shoulder with the Indonesians. We've offered and they've taken up special particular assistance in CCTV imaging to help identification, and we're also providing some special facial sketching expertise which we have to try and help them with the identification of the perpetrators of these terrible events.
How confident, though, are you in Indonesia's security levels? I mean, media reports today suggest that Nurdin Muhammad Top may have checked into the Marriott Hotel himself for several days in preparation of this attack, and that, in fact, basically JI's 3 top bomb makers were behind them.
Well, again...
right there in downtown Jakarta.
Well, again, I'd much prefer to wait until the exhaustive analysis and the investigation. I've seen plenty of speculation. I haven't been drawn on it and won't propose to be drawn on it, other than to say it's quite clear when these terrible events first occurred that instantly a range of people, including Indonesian officials, indicated or said this looks like it might have Norden Top's touch or hallmark about it, and certainly factors associated with it, the methodical planning, the modus operandi, do make him and his associate clearly a very high, if not the top suspect. But in terms of coming to a conclusive view about that, let's wait until we see the final exhaustive analysis. And in terms of what were the actual preparations, how did they manage to exploit the situation? Again, time will tell. What of course we do know is that following the 2003 bombing at the Marriott Hotel, additional security measures were installed at that hotel and others. One thing we do need to know is whether on the day there are any breaches of security or whether there are any systemic breaches, and obviously that'll be part of the exhaustive assessment, not just by the Indonesian authorities, but also by the hotels themselves, and that was clear from the conversations I had with the hotel managers when I was there on Sunday.